Hey, I'm Brian Krause, and today we're going to hop inside of my computer. As a security guy, I'm always talking about the risks associated with privileged accounts. Now, a privileged account is exactly what it sounds like. It is a user's account that has great access. Often you'll hear this referred to as an administrative account, admin account, or root account. Now, when this is used for good, it allows us to build all the great technologies and software resources we see today. However, when used for bad, nefarious attackers are able to go in and hack into networks. The security concept around securing privileged accounts is pretty simple at face value. Only give a user the level of access necessary for their job, no more that gives you security, and no less that gives you productivity. There are basically two primary frameworks we hear all the time around privileged accounts. One is enforcement of least privilege, and two is zero trust. Both of these fall along the mantra of never trust, always verify. Of course, at face value, this sounds simple. In practice, it's not necessarily easy to pull this off. I'm probably oversimplifying what a computer or an operating system is, but the OS is a collection of files and folders. It's organized into a tree, so it's easy to access this information. It would be very similar to a library. Software is then used to compile all of this data together to give us some sort of usable output that isn't a bunch of ones and zeros. It is a super bad idea to give people full access to all these files and folders. It would be just the same as a library without a librarian. We'd have mass chaos with books all over the place. They'd be lost, they'd be stolen. Definitely wouldn't be a very good situation. How do we solve this problem? Well, you guessed it. We do this with security. Security is all about roles and permissions. There's going to be certain roles that have higher levels of trust, and as a result, they're going to get greater access or better permissions. All of us are computer users. However, I don't think many of us think a whole heck of a lot about those user accounts underlying on the OS. In particular, you have several different kinds of accounts. When you install Windows, what's going to happen right away is a local administrator account is going to be created. And this is a permission or an account that has access to all the underlying system files and is allowed to make a bunch of changes, and it can assign new users. It can assign roles and permissions. As part of that, there's also going to be a default local user account. Now, this default local user account is the account most of us use on our home machines all the time. And with this, it allows us to access our applications, but it's going to be given the role of administrator. And with this, it actually has full access to all of the system. Now, to make things a little bit more secure, what you can do as an administrator is create a standard local user. And that standard local user is going to have some sort of restricted roles and permissions so they can use applications, but they can't really access all the underlying system files, making a bunch of changes. And if they did want to, they need to elevate their privilege and somehow get to administrator. When we log in as a standard restricted user, this is a really good idea because it makes it super difficult for an attacker to get in and hack our account. And that's exactly what I want to show you about today, is just a little more on how does the account file structure on your Windows machine work. With that said, let's hop into my demonstration as I show you a couple things.
Let me show you a couple things about accounts. Now, if we go into settings, we'll see my account is listed here. It says my name, Brian, and that I am an administrator. That's great to know. What does this mean? That means it's the default local user account, and that default local user account has the administrative permissions. So I have full access into this machine. Now, when you log into your computer, this is a home computer, not a work computer. That's going to look a little different because of domain structures, things of that nature. But on your home computer, almost everybody logs in as local admin. However, you do have the ability to set up additional accounts. Let's go into family and other users. You'll see other users. I have the ability to add other user by clicking this button. Now, if I click on that, you'll see a little pop-up come does some Microsoft stuff. I can either have this person sign up using email. If I don't have their sign-in information, I can click that, don't have that button. And I could say add a user without a Microsoft account, put some information, and now that user's created. That's exactly what I did for this account that's called Local User Limited Account. And with this account, if I look at the account options and click change account type, we'll quickly see that right now the account type is a standard user. That means this has limited rights. If I wanted to log into that account, that's something I always could do that. I just click on my start button, and you'll see down here that if I click on my name, I have this ability to go to local user limited, which is that account I'm talking about. I'm not going to click on that because that ends up messing up some of the recording I'm doing. Let's come back into our accounts here, and I'm going to show you a little bit more. This is just a great way to get an idea of what accounts are set up. And if I'm being super secure, I should always log in that local user, which doesn't really have administrative access like my regular account or my default account has. Now, if I go into the file structure, so if I go into my C directory and click on users, we're going to see the different users that are set up on my computer. There's this one that is Moose, and that's that default account, which is associated with my main account. And I can come in here and I can right click, I can go to properties, I can click on security, and we'll see that it has my role as, me as the user, it shows my name. I'm in a group of system, and that's just a role that the system's able to access a bunch of files. But more importantly, it has this administrators group. So that means my account is an administrator account, and we look at what sort of permissions are available for administrators. Well, I have allow checked on all of those. So I have full control. I can modify, read, execute, list folder contents, read, write, all of that good stuff, giving me full access. So if I click onto something, let's say whatever this doc is here, lo and behold, it just opens up. Now I do have some of my permissions set up that for certain kinds of files, folders, I will get a prompt. So let's try looking at the security settings of that new local user limited account that I set up earlier. And if we go down to properties, we'll click on security. And notice now it says you must have read permissions to view the properties of this object. Well, I am in the local admin account because I'm using the default account. So if I just click advanced, you'll see it pops up. It still has this little shield, which is configurable. So I could put more advanced security on it, such as MFA. I haven't really done that here. But if I click continue, now all of a sudden I am looking at the different properties of what can access that account. And of course, because we're looking at the local user limited account, itself is able to access it, administrators are able to access it, and the system is able to access it. Since I'm logged in as an administrator, I can access it. There's a lot more that goes into setting up different roles, policies, security settings. When we get into full-blown corporate networks, of course, it tends to get way more complicated even beyond that. But I did want to give you a little flavor of how do you look into your computer? How do you find out a little bit more about what accounts are available? And hopefully I've accomplished that.
Hey, do you like me? Do you like my content? Then do me a huge favor. Give me a like, make a comment down below, maybe reshare my post, and definitely subscribe to my channel.